Good evening, everyone. I'm Jaideep, your evening host and HR at Edo. Before we dive in, let me give you a quick glimpse into Edo. Edo is a global network of students and young professionals like yourself, all passionate about inspiring youth to make a positive impact. We connect you with established professionals and offer a platform to learn from their journeys. Now, on behalf of Team Maverick and Edo, we are thrilled to welcome you to this webinar on entrepreneurship and economic empowerment, encouraging young people to start their own business and become financially independent. To make this session even more engaging, we kindly request everyone to switch on their cameras. And now, the moment we all have been waiting for, our esteemed guest speaker for tonight is Mr. Rufaro. Mr. Rufaro has graduated in Bachelor's of Science in Agriculture and Natural Resource Management. Mr. Rufaro, it's a true honor to have you with us today. We are all eager to gain valuable insights from your expertise. Mr. Rufaro, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. Like you mentioned, my name is Rufaro Rushwaya. I finished my degree in agriculture and natural resources management last year, and I just have a brief topic on entrepreneurship and economic empowerment, the key to growth and independence in the youths of today. So just as a small, maybe minor background, I'll just explain why I felt more comfortable picking this as my uh topic. Um, so to say the least, my family is quite involved in economics and where my father has a degree in economics and accounting, and my brother is an investment banker. I feel like I understand the topic. I understand the wants and needs that come with the topic because of outside experience from day-to-day life and what I've experienced as an individual after finishing university and or college, depending on where you're from, actually. If I could have some sort of information on where people are from and some names so that I can have like a small back. Okay, I just wanted to hear what people's names are and where they're from so I can have examples that I can easily use to examples that I can give depending on where you're from, etc., etc.
Yeah, okay. Jaideep, I'm from India,
Okay.
and I think, yeah, Mr. Farooq.
And you know me, right? I'm Farooq, and I'm also belonging to India, but uh, I can say that I'm migrated to Bangladesh. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay,
Hello,
great.
this and I'm from India.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else that's on the group that can speak?
Yeah, so hi, my name is Shandev and I'm also from India.
Okay.
Hi, Rufaro. Myself, Aman Khadir. I am from India.
Okay. Nice to meet you. Um, Hi everyone. Okay. I just realized most all of you are from India. Have you been watching cricket today? I actually missed that today, so that I could present today. We're playing each other. I think you guys are winning at the moment. Anyway, moving on. So basically, I have a few. The way I'm going to present is I'm going to ask a few questions and then answer your questions with some questions of my own and give you more like a discussion type session. And so that we both try have an understanding of what's going on and how I feel we can get into entrepreneurship and economic empowerment of youth. So the objective of this is to understand the impact of entrepreneurship and economic empowerment on the youths and explore ways of promoting it to youths such as ourselves. So basically, by this statement, I mean that how us as people, us as youths, how us opening our own businesses and us being able to access economic powers such as money, land, etc., things that we would definitely need to improve our own livelihoods and how the improvement of our livelihoods would affect our nations as a whole. So my first question would be, what is entrepreneurship, if anyone can tell me?
I guess entrepreneurship is main like opening a business, right? Or starting a company.
Yes, that is true. Um, so basically, simplified, an entrepreneur or entrepreneurship is the person that decides to take the risk of opening a business for the betterment of themselves and the people around them, right? So let's say in a situation whereby um Farouk, for example, is there in India and has decided I'm going to sell um here in Africa we call them vuvuzelas, those loud little bongs. The main issue that he'd be doing is that he'd then start a small business where he would sell these items to improve his life as an individual, taking the risk of whether or not he might not be able to, let's say there's a bad day or there's a bad game and people don't really understand what they are, he would not be able to sell those. So that's what his risk then comes, the risk part doesn't comes in that he won't be able to make back the money that he's used to buy the vuvuzelas or to manufacture them. Right? My next question would be, what is economic empowerment? Okay, if no one has an idea, we can just move on so that I can explain that later. So as I mentioned earlier, um, sorry. Okay. Entrepreneurship is the ability and the readiness to develop and organize and run a business enterprise along with any of its uncertainties in order to make a profit off of it. Economic empowerment is the ability to improve one's economic status through education, skills, and access to resources, right? So in this case, it would be, so like I mentioned earlier about entrepreneurship, it would be the ability, the main things that you need to remember: ability, readiness to develop, to organize it, run the business with all the pros and cons that come with running a business. So when it comes to usually with most countries, for example, in Zimbabwe, if you want to start a business, you have to register it with Companies Act, right? Because of Companies Act. So once you register it, you register its name, you start paying taxes. And within these taxes, these are small little risks. These are monies that you could have used for something else or monies that you could have used to do something else, right? And within that starting notion, there is issues such as now depending on the size of your business or your economies of scale, you're gonna need employees, you're gonna need machinery, you're gonna need transport, so all of these things need money. So within the use of money, we would then want that is where our risk is coming from, whether or not you are taking the risk in that you've borrowed money from someone or you've borrowed money from a bank, which is where economic empowerment then comes in. Where you get the money is essentially the risk, right? And the main point of starting your business is going to be trying to retain and make more money than you already put in, right? So we would try to, that's basically what entrepreneurship is. In terms of economic empowerment, this is now just trying to further the skills that you already have. Because as is, anybody can start a business, right? Whether it's a lemonade stand, whether it's a company that makes cars, right? The difference now is the skill. So education and skill, basically. So now economic empowerment then comes in that if the government that you're in or under, such as, let's say for me, I'm under the Zimbabwean government, for you guys, you're under the Indian government, you would need to have a specific understanding of your government. So there are things that, like in certain other countries, like let's say the UK and the US, there's free education. For some countries such as Germany, they have free education all the way to university for locals and for internationals. These are things that they are ways of empowering their youths so that they have the education to make educated decisions that would then assist them later on in life. So like, let's say we then take the risk of like the Vuvuzela example that I'd given. Let me give another one. So let's say Farouk has decided to sell Coca-Cola, right, at the stadium, or his own drink, right? So the main things that Farouk would need would be a place where he can sell the Coca-Cola and the other drinks, the how he's going to move from each step in the stadium up and down, whether he's going to get other people to help him, and how much money he would need for that, right? So education within in a place whereby you could come up with a system that the stadium could end up using that would use a conveyor belt that would pass on drinks from one station to the next, right? That the drink is protected before the drink gets to the actual person, and then it moves according to rows, etc., right? That's then where our education comes in and skills. So let's say Farouk, I keep using you as an example, but Farouk is an engineer, right? So instead of now selling a single commodity, which is this drink, Farouk is now selling his education and his skills, right? In that he can make a conveyor belt that can then sell drinks in different stadiums. So instead of him selling 500 drinks at a game, he would now be selling business model of him, a business model based on the skills that he's gotten from this economic empowerment that he's received. So, moving on to the next, we would be talking about the importance of entrepreneurship for the youth and its benefits. So the first thing I would look at would be, sorry, that looks a little clumsy, but it encourages innovation and creativity, right? So because of the situations that some of us are in as youths, we are forced to then come up with ways of making money, right? We're all from third world countries, so we all understand that it's a little bit difficult, even when it comes to starting a business. You have to worry about things such as, I'm not sure if you have the same issues that side, but when you start a business this side, you have to consider before even starting the business, where you're going to get backup electricity, because it is not a matter of why, but a matter of when electricity is going to go. So we're going to see that in different countries, we're going to see that there are going to be different obstacles that you're going to face in terms of how you're going to move on, or how you're going to promote your business, or how you're going to be able to start your business. These are things that you're going to have to look at before actually starting your business. So let's say, for example, I wanted to start a business to do with tourism, right? So one thing that I've realized is that us as youths, we use going into my second point, which is develops problem solving skills and critical thinking skills, right? In this case, we'd find out quickly that we have problems. Like for me, like I mentioned earlier, it would be electricity, right? There are going to be days where I do have electricity. There are going to be days where I don't have electricity. So I have to find a way of going around, or making sure I have enough capital to start my business with things such as a generator or a solar panel or etc. So in a case like me, right, and for most youths, we use the internet, right? The internet has now become an easier way of marketing and getting a lot of connectivity between a consumer and your producer. So in this case, right, let's say like I mentioned earlier, I would like to start a company to do with tourism. I would need a lot of customer in terms of on a daily basis, whether it's on Instagram, TikTok, whether it's on Instagram, TikTok, Telegram, WhatsApp. All of these platforms are now developing business models that then are able to get as many people to be able to access their business. So, for example, in a tourism company, I would need as many people as possible to be interested in where I would like to take them, and where I'd like to take them, how much it is, and the cost benefit analysis of whether or not it would be worth it for them to work with me rather than a different company, right? And so now, for example, let's say I have the 6 of you that want to come, right? It would now be my duty, or my job is to now make sure that what you see in Zimbabwe, right? For example, I'll say in my brochure, maybe, right, that I'm posting all over the internet. I would either post it on LinkedIn, post it on WhatsApp, post it on whatever other program I can post it on. I then make sure that you have access to it. You can somehow get to it. So since I've met Farouk on LinkedIn, for example, I would then have a note that says I have this business and this business does this and this is what's in Zimbabwe. So for example, Zimbabwe boasts of one of the 7 wonders of the world. You can say Zimbabwe is very good at cricket. You can say Zimbabwe has a very, very rich natural history, very rich life history and wildlife as an example, right? You as a consumer would then look at it this way. Okay, I really enjoy cricket, and this time of the year, there's this much cricket in Zimbabwe. I would like to see, for example, India versus Zimbabwe, which they're playing here. You would say, I would like to see New Zealand versus Zimbabwe, which they're also playing here. You would then be like, okay, I have a reason. I've given you something that would be like, okay, I'm putting money into this, but I'm certain that I'm going to have fun because I enjoy cricket. Or if I say, I'm going to take you to one of the most luxurious hotels that are countrywide, that would have you interacting with wildlife and interacting with the most beautiful trees in Zimbabwe. I could even sell the fact that we have very clean air and that it's in comparison busy life of India and how many people are in a certain space, it would be so much freer. There's a lot fewer people, and there's a lot more enjoyment in this stay, right? That would now be me using my critical skills that I've learned to actually then get you to come. And in youth making starting their own businesses, such as through entrepreneurship, it fosters independence. So we as a people, we as a youth, at the moment I'm pretty sure everyone heard a story or information about them still staying with their parents, or them still having people reaching ages such as 35, 45, still staying on their parents' estates or parents' houses, or sharing accommodation with their parents because of the lack of tangibility of money, right? It's not really necessarily anybody's fault, but it's then become very difficult for someone to become successful enough to be able to rent their own place, right? I'm not saying buy their own place, I'm saying rent their own place. So with the job creation from entrepreneurship, I could end up working for Farouk in his company because I have certain skills that he would need. Let's say I have skills in marketing. I would now be able to move his business from 1 stadium to 5. And if whether or not, because maybe I'm in a different country, I could move it from 1 stadium to 5, or 1 stadium in India to adding a stadium in Zimbabwe, or adding a stadium in South Africa, or adding a stadium in China, or adding a stadium in Japan. Right? We'd then now be able to understand each other. We'd then now be able to get more youths involved in making their own money and being directly involved in increasing the GDP of each country, right? And so also by starting your own businesses, it gives us certain employability. So let's say I would then like to work for a conglomerate or a company that has a lot more that is big, right? So let's say I would like to then go work for Microsoft, right? If Microsoft understands that Rufaro in Zimbabwe started a chip company that was making chips that are then used for different computers. I was running a repair shop, etc., etc. Depending on how well that company did or does, they're going to realize you have critical thinking skills, you have problem solving skills. They can just assume those things because you are now part of this. You are definitely going to face these problems. You're going to face certain adversities because you've been in a certain business. Anyway, back to the benefits of entrepreneurship. So we had creation of jobs, increased innovation and problem solving, development of financial literacy and business acumen. Right, on financial literacy and business acumen. By running your own business, or becoming an entrepreneur, you're forced to manage your money, right? Because if you use all the money that you receive on a daily basis, whether your company works on a daily basis, you are then forced to always be in debt, right? So you're now forced to make sure that you leave enough money to make sure that the company is running. You leave enough money to be able to pay your employees. You leave enough money to be able to produce, to be able to increase your economies of scale. So economies of scale are basically increasing. So the higher the number of things that you can make, the more people you can reach, right? So let's say you had a company of 5 individuals, right? And you're producing 25 projects. Economies of scale would then say if you increase your number of workers from 5 to 20, right? And you're making 25, we then expect you to be making, we're then expecting you to make at least 30 times the amount of things that you're already making. Or the introduction of machinery. We're in a world of technology. You introduce a machine that can do the 5 people that were working for you, that can do their job in a fraction of the time. You're increasing your economies of scale, right? And then in terms of business acumen, there's a certain language, or not language, but there's a certain way that one is supposed to hold themselves. There's a certain manner in that we are expected to speak. There's a certain manner that we'll then use depending on different scenarios. For example, right? Let's say you want to go get, so for me, at least in Harare, Zimbabwe, there's a certain way you're expected to speak in a specific area, right? So let's say I'm in the middle of town and I'm in downtown and I need something. There's a certain time whereby speaking the lingo that everyone that's there will understand will be beneficial to me, right? So in terms of, I might end up receiving more of a good. I think there in India, you also understand that you can discuss things and be like, oh no, what if you reduce your price to this and I can get this much out of it. Let's say I want, back to the canned drinks, right? Let's say one canned drink is $1, right? Or 1 rupee, right? I would then say, okay, I want to buy 50 canned drinks, right? But I don't necessarily want to give you $50. Can we discuss the price down, because I'm buying at such a large scale? Can we discuss the price down to maybe 45 or maybe even 40, right? So that we end up in a situation whereby I'm happy in that I've been able to buy all the things I need. The person I'm buying from is happy because they've sold so many units and they've still made somewhat of a profit, right? But at the same time, this same business acumen won't work in a situation where a suit and tie and you're, not that it won't work, but there's a certain lingo that you're also expected to use in that type of situation. So let's say you're wearing a business suit, you're on the 17th floor of this big building, right? And you're trying to close a business deal. There's a certain lingo that you have to use as well for them to understand. You're then forced to change a lot of things. Not forced, but there's a certain thing that you have to change. So it might be from your dressing, it could be from the way you speak, it could be from the way you carry yourself. You might practice how to use a fork and knife the night before. You might practice speaking clearly, making sure that the person understands what you're saying, whether it's coming up with examples that he would most likely be able to relate to, or whether or not it's you then going to uh, speak to them as an individual, speak to their heart, speak to the sport that they enjoy. You then find your own way. You find that then falls under business acumen, right? And then the final benefit is owning your own thing has its pride, right? So let's say you've started your business, whether it's running well or it's running okay or it's not doing very well, right? But the greatest feeling I feel, right, would be either your relatives come to you and be like, oh no, I passed for your shop and I really enjoyed it. But the person that was there helped me out, or they said, "Oh no, or hearing that your parents or your brother, your siblings, or someone else are able to benefit in terms of employment. They're able to, in terms of you now making money then allows you making money then allows you to then support them financially as well, right? Moving on to the next slide. Okay. Just as a short question, what are some of the challenges in India that you feel are stopping a young entrepreneur that you believe are easily addressed?
Uh, I think people are afraid of taking risks, and yeah, some doesn't get from their
Okay,
parents to start the
yeah,
business. Also,
that's true. Taking
yeah,
risks is one of the biggest issues when it comes to trying to get people to start a business. But also, the main thing that comes with starting a business is you need to understand the people that you're dealing with, right? If I was to start a barbershop, right, I cannot start a barbershop in an area whereby 90% of the people that are there are bald, right? I need to understand that all these people, there's a market for what I'm giving. So if I'm to start a barbershop and I'm to make sure that everyone who's there has, let's say, a full head of hair, not necessarily a full head of hair, but has hair, right? The chances of them coming to you are very high, right? Because after some time, we all want to then have a haircut or look presentable, whether it's for an interview, engagement, etc., etc. We're then forced to go to a barber shop, right? Any other challenges that you see that side?
mm, yeah, and taxes, government taxes also, like yeah,
Yes,
government
tax.
taxes.
Right. I don't know about, I'm not exactly sure how your tax works in India, but in Zimbabwe, when you start your business, you have to pay a certain tax, depending on how much your business makes on a quarterly basis, right? So let's say if your business makes, I think it's less than $1,000 a year, every quarterly, you don't pay any taxes in Zimbabwe. But
Yeah, here also is like this, like above like a certain amount of money you are like your business is earning, so you will pay tax
okay,
after that certain. Yeah.
okay, that's then the same. So now in certain situations, you realize that um after let's say you've gotten to the point where you're making $1,000 per what you call it per quarter, you then realize that you were then told that you're supposed to start paying taxes, but this is at the lowest bracket of taxes, right? Let's say me who has, let's say, a business that's making 10,000 every quarter, I will be taxed at a certain percentage. So this could be a 40% or 42% tax, if I'm not mistaken. You, with your smaller business, will be taxed at a much smaller rate, especially if you're introducing youth into your business. So in Zimbabwe, let's say your tax could be as low as 20%, right? And understandably, 20% for someone that's working very hard is very difficult for them to let go of. But at the end of the day, There are certain things that most governments will do. They'll give you subsidies, they'll give you tax givebacks, right? That then at the end of the day are then made to benefit your business, right? So yeah. Are there any other challenges that people feel that they see? Okay, moving on. Okay, so economic empowerment. So when our link between economic empowerment and the youth is basically our understanding of education, skill, and resource allocation to the young people. So in a situation whereby, let's give the example of two 20-year-olds, right? Let's say one went to school to A levels. I don't know do you guys do A levels? Like school between 17 and before university. Anyway, for example, let's say you've had someone that's gone to school and has specialized in a specific thing, right? With the understanding of education and skill, you are now then put in a position whereby if you are to do a specific thing, this could be playing football, this could be the ability to, this could be carpenting, this could be etc. If you have access to the resources that will allow you to get to a point where you are somewhat a master or in a part of a very small percentage of people that are capable of doing a specific thing, you will get paid, right? Whether it's you're doing it yourself or you're doing it with the assistance else, you are then in a position to make your own money, right? Whether it's you've decided to work for yourself and start your own business, or you've decided to work for somebody else, everyone is always going to demand certain skills, right? There's certain skills as a carpenter, there's always going to be a certain skill that someone's going to need. As a computer scientist, someone's computer system is always going to need to be updated. Whether when it crashes, someone's going to need to fix it. When they have hardware issues, software issues, there's someone that's going to be needed to fix that specific situation because not everyone understands that, right? But also, on the other hand, we could also look at it as the development of skill. You can always look at the development of skill, a way of empowering oneself, right? So the more you develop a specific skill that you have, the more attractive, I would say, the more accessible you are to people that potentially would like to hire you, potentially being able to open your own business, right? But then the issue that then comes with opening your own business would be that you are not capable of receiving, or no, as youths, not many banks are very keen on giving someone who's between the ages of for us sort of be 17 to about 25, any sort of money, especially if this is their first time out of the job, out looking for a job, right? So we as a people, we as young people need to find ways. So from my basic research, I've realized that there are many small microfinance companies in the world. Well, for example, in Zimbabwe, there's very small microfinance companies that will pay for the startup of your business for a percentage of your business, right? If they feel all you have to do as an individual is have a running model and a proposal that makes sense, right? And so this then puts you in a position to actually be able to receive funds, right? And also things like Adore Global, how we get a lot of young people to speak to each other. So in a situation whereby Farouk would come speak to me and ask me a question about economics or agriculture or natural resources management, I would then be able to answer it, right? We would then be able to make somewhat a connection to assist each other to then help each other move forward, right? The best thing about life nowadays is connection, right? The more connections you are able to make as an individual, the more you are able to do later on. The more you can get help to do certain things, right? I might have a connection to get you to speak to someone who's in a position to help you. Same the other way around with Farouk, right? So the next point is when young people have financial independency, it fosters self-confidence, decision-making skills, and overall well-being. Oh yeah, this was supposed to be my own personal notes, but anyway, we can discuss some challenges young people face, like in our job market, right? Something that we all notice, like on the 2 points that I put down here, we have limited experience, it's very competitive, because me as an individual, right, I could possibly have, right, in Zimbabwe, generally, right, the competition is who's more educated. We have a school, we have a university that only takes the A students, right? And their chances of getting into work are right after uni are very high. And also there are other things such as nepotism, there are other things such as lack of knowledge on different countries, on different people, right? That would stop us from garnering or being able to reach a specific market for jobs at where we're actually wanted, right? And also in most third world countries such as Zimbabwe, the main issue is underemployment, right? Because of underemployment, we've realized that people that have a certain skill are being paid for a certain level of skill, are willingly taking jobs with lower skill levels and lower pay in order just to get some work. So the only way we can get around that would be, like I said earlier, our opening of our own businesses. As much as it is very difficult to do so, we are then forced to then make up our own, our own circles. A C student could always end up working for an A student. I think it was Steve Jobs that said that. He said, you see that in most situations is that C students end up employing A students in order for them to move on in life, because they are taught differently. There's certain things that they're then forced to learn. They'll have the basic understanding. Let's say I'm a C student, right? I have the basic understanding of a certain thing. I would then go hire someone else that has probably better skills at a specific job, right? And then because you are demanding a job and I can supply a job, I can then force a certain level of price, right? I can increase the number of I can increase the supply of jobs and also increase the number of people that are getting hired. But at the same time, it then forces me to increase the amount of wages that I give everyone, right? But if I can also reduce the amount of that I'm pulling out, it reduces the number of people that want to work for me. But at the same time, it reduces strain on costs for me, right? This then causes underemployment. Um, Also, another question it's like an open-ended question. Why do you think economic empowerment is important for young people? So now, this is basically trying to force economic empowerment gives us the skills, the education to make decisions, right? It then gives us the ability to make a specific decision that will, in the long run, assist us to do different jobs, or gives us the allocation of resources to actually do specific jobs that will end up making us attractive on a job market. So one thing that I've noticed lately is that people are getting professional certificates. So let's say I have a degree, right? Most companies would rather take someone with a professional degree. An example of this is ACCA, right? Most companies will take someone with an ACCA, right, over someone without an ACCA, but with a degree in accounting, right? Because they believe that what they teach in that ACCA program is what they will definitely meet in the market, right? And this has then forced accounting firms to be like, okay, no, you'll see, I think if anyone's an accountant, they've noticed that it's in, like, it'll even be in job descriptions that they want a specific individual that has an ACCA, right? And then that makes it very difficult for an individual that then spent their 4 years at university without an ACCA to actually get the job, right? So yeah, moving on to the next slide. Right. Economic empowerment for youth. Ooh. It gives us access to education and job training programs. Gives us financial literacy and management skills, access to capital, funding opportunities, gives us access to mentorship and support networks. Examples: organizations providing financial literacy training for youth, such as the National Endowment for Financial Education, initiatives offering microloans or grants to young entrepreneurs, such as the Young Entrepreneurs Academy. In Zimbabwe, I think we have in Africa, there's the it's Young Entrepreneurs Company, I think. They give grants to students that have just finished university or students that are still in university to grow their products. At some technological universities, such as in Zimbabwe, we have Harare Institute of Technology. Some students doing their masters and doing their undergraduate, depending on how good your end of course project is, you could get picked up, right? They've put in positions, or they've put positions and put out your documents to the public, to the point where specific investors would be willing to look at your idea. And another thing that we should look at is that people, one thing that I've noticed is that many first world countries give initiatives to give out grants, right? The other day I was speaking to a friend of mine who is a medical doctor. He was informing me that there's up to $1 billion for Africa, for doctors in Africa to start their own practices with the ability to fund their researchers, to fund ideologies, to fund well thought out proposals, to the point where they will assist you to the point where you'll be able to open your own practice. And I'm pretty sure they have the same for India. That is how this works nowadays. They're trying to bridge that gap, because in countries such as the United States, I think all of us have used either TikTok or Instagram or anything like that. You realize that even the youngest of people from the ages of like 6 or 7 are monetizing YouTube channels, are monetizing YouTube channels, monetizing Instagram channels, TikTok channels, to the point where we're seeing people at the age of 21 as multimillionaires receiving sponsorship deals because of the popularity or the how large a crowd they can connect with, right? So, for example, I think the most popular YouTuber right now is Mr. Beast. Basically, he explained his business model in that he receives large amounts of money or large sums of money from companies that want to that are willing to. So let's say he wants to donate. So in Zimbabwe, I think he donated. They built, I think, about 30 wells. They went to a company and they explained that um, we want to do this. We want to build wells in Africa, right? And so when this company then realizes that if their banners or their product placement is in Mr. Beast's video, which could receive up to 5, maybe 10 million views after a few days, would then quickly assist them in that other companies or millionaires that are willing to donate money will donate money to their cause, right? Because of how popular things are, right? Moving on to the next. Challenges and solutions. Common challenges faced by young entrepreneurs, such as lack of experience, funding, and networking opportunities. Like I said, a platform such as this is our obvious way of getting opportunities to network. Potential solutions, we could use it as our mentorship program, incubators, and online researchers. Successful mentorship programs such as the Sherry Blair Foundation for Women, online platforms offering resources and networking opportunities such as the Global Youth Entrepreneurship Network. Okay. These are some questions that I believe we can just, go over them when we're home. How do we think entrepreneurship and economic development can shape the future of our society? And what ideas do we have for a business or venture that could positively impact your community? And that would be the end of my presentation. But yeah, if you can still look at the take-home questions, you can easily then go over them, and maybe the next time we have a webinar, we can discuss those and see if we can actually start a business as the group of 8 or 40.
Yeah. Thank you, Rufaro.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I request the participant to submit their doubts and questions in the chat box, and Mr. Rufaro will answer them accordingly.
Okay, I see some questions. Okay, so let me just go over them one at a time. Okay. How can young entrepreneurs stay motivated and persistent in their entrepreneurial journeys? So what I believe from what I've personally experienced is setting goals for yourself, right? The easiest way to stay motivated is being able to see what you've done, right? So as long as you can, let's say I have like this notebook here, right? This is my notebook. I always make sure that I write down, let's say, in a year, I write down certain. So for each quarter, each year, I write a few goals that I have for my organization or for my company, right? And so by seeing that you've accomplished a certain goal, right, you'll always be motivated, right? The fact that someone else will then acknowledge you will then even be a cherry on top, right? But then let's say you've gotten to a point where you are stunted, right? You're in stunted growth and your company isn't growing as much as you believe it should be. Your company it's doing well, or you're in a place where you are just doing enough to stay afloat, right? But you need that extra boost. One thing that I've noticed that's put most people's product or that's rejuvenated people's energy in terms of their own businesses is trying something new, right? We all get to a point whereby we have what we know and we believe that's how our product is supposed to work. But when we get to a point where we understand that we can improve our businesses, so this could be, oh no, I believe that my product is a word of mouth thing. I walk around and I tell people about my product and people come, right? But one thing that I've realized is that I remember my personal barber, this is what he did, right? He struggled with trying to get engagement with people. But what he didn't know was that some of the people that he cut, some of the people that he cut for a haircut, then turned out to be celebrities. So now he started posting videos of him cutting their hair, like the ones that you see on Instagram and on TikTok, right? Started doing that, having short little. It then forced him to try and learn a new skill in terms of videography, etc. But then it also then in the end garnered more people. So he was then able to access a lot more people because when these celebrities saw these pictures and videos of themselves on the internet, they would tag them or they would repost them. And now at this point, he would then have. So now I have to, when I want a haircut, I have to book a week in advance for me to go get a haircut. If I just go there, he'll just tell me I don't have time for you. Right. That's how many people he's garnered up to this day. Right. So being stagnant will happen, but it's just keeping an open mind that will help. Keeping yourself organized will help. And the next one would be what legal contributions should young entrepreneurs be aware of when starting a business? So for each country, they're different, right? But these are things you can access on the internet. For me in Zimbabwe, there are certain, so I have to register my company. I have to have a tax clearance. I have to make sure my tax clearance is done. I have to make sure I can prove where my funds are coming from. I have to make sure that prove where my funds are coming from, prove where I have prove I have a specific revenue stream, right? So whether I'm supporting it from a job that I already have, or I'm supporting it from another business, or I'm receiving funds, etc., etc. These are things that they're gonna ask for. So, okay. So I have this somewhere, so let me just check it. Okay, while I wait for my thing to load, let me answer the next question. How can mentorship and networking support young entrepreneurs in their journey. Okay. So mentorship, having someone that has been through a specific situation or scenario will always help you in that they can give you first-hand experience on how to assist. So for me, I had a lady who was an environmental lawyer who used to help me during my school days. Basically, she explained how the market can be very difficult, right? And then not many people are taking environmentalists, and you have very stringent number of people. But she put me in a position, she put me in a position whereby I knew who to speak to in order to get things like attachment, internships, etc., etc. So that then assisted me in that I'm your. So let's say you speak to someone that has an idea of how to run a business. They'll give you a way of how to organize your books, how to make sure your taxes are paid on time, um, how to make sure your employees are always happy, how to make sure you're always happy, how to assist when you have inspiration block, how to assist when you have a block in terms of information. Let's say you don't know how to do a specific thing. He could put you in a position whereby you can speak to someone that can help you. And okay, so I was answering the mentorship question, right? Um, like I mentioned, they just give you an easier path to understanding what routes to take and how to avoid certain mistakes. And then the next question was, why is having a business plan crucial? So having a business plan keeps you organized. That's the main thing. It keeps you organized. It gives you a clear view of your goal, right? By having a clear view of your goal, you know that there's certain steps that you have to take. So let's say, for example, um, you want to start a business. We want to go back to our bottling drink, our Coca-Cola business, right? You know that there's certain steps that you need to have in order to make sure that your business continues to thrive. So your first step could be, I need to find where I can buy the cheapest drinks, right? So your cheapest drinks could be found in, for example, if your cheapest drinks are found in, let's say, Bangladesh or something, right? Um, that's where you start. You go there, you get your prices, you then find out what your prices are, and then you probably need to find your biggest market, right? So the next place you're gonna go is, let's say, to football games, to cricket matches, to go to where large numbers of people, yeah, right? Whether that's in town or whether that, and then also you then have to look at your comps that you then need to understand in order to know what you are doing, right? So now let's say you're going to avoid a specific place because there's so many people that are selling drinks as well, but you're going to go to a different place where the need for the drink is there and there are not as many people selling drinks as well. Are there any other questions?
I think this is enough. So,
Okay.
yeah. As we are near the closing ceremony, before we depart, we would like to thank Mr. Rufaro Rushwaya, Dinesh sir, Simran ma'am, Pradipta sir, and my team members for making this webinar a success. Adore connects you with established professionals and offers up to earn from their journeys. So if anyone is interested, you can visit the website. We have shared a link in the chat box. We request you to give your valuable feedback. Once again, thank you everyone for joining. The webinar is now completed and you may now leave the meeting.